Advisory Board meeting for April 24th. We'll start with our roll call. Myself, Lisa Robinson. Jackie Myers has an excused absence. Kevin Dull.
Present.
Sandy Edge.
Present.
Stephen Plant, we are waiting for his arrival. Pablo Unda has an excused absence. Elaine Masseri.
Here.
Winton Hunter.
Present.
And Sanaya Burns. Here. Okay, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. You have the agenda in front of you, and I believe we have a call for an amendment to the agenda. Perfect
Ma'am, I
timing.
recommend we amend the agenda to add an item between 4 and 5 for recognition of our off-going board members. One of it's just walked in the room.
Yes. Perfect.
For the record, he is here.
Yes, perfect timing. Okay, we have a motion to approve to amend the agenda.
Second.
Second? All in favor? Elaine? Okay. All right, we will move forward with the agenda as amended. And we will go now to the approval of the previous meeting minutes for March 27th. You also have those in front of you. Those are also available online. And if you want to take a few minutes to read through those. If you haven't already looked at them. If there are no amendments or changes to the minutes, if I can get a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, show of hands. Okay. Okay, minutes are approved. We will now move on to the recognition of our board members. And we do have 2 board members who will be cycling off with us. Chief?
Right, so I guess for everybody in the audience, there are 9 members on the board. 2 members are students. One is from Clemson University, which is Stephen Plant, and one is Sanaya Burns, who is from Daniel High School. One's a high school student and a college student. Their terms end at the end of the school year, and the new terms for the new members will start anytime during the summer, but in the fall usually when they get here. And I received an email this week that the council selected Caroline Beatty as the high school, as the Clemson University student, and Ava Ross as the high school student. So they'll be joining us in a month or so. But for that, we have certificates for both of the outgoing members.
And as chair, I would just like to thank both of you for your service and your commitment and your attention in the board meetings. I think it's important that we have representation of students on the advisory board.
Well, as part of the purpose for the board, as everybody knows, or on the board, but those who don't know, is a vehicle between the police department and the community, and the only way we can hear the voices of the community is if we have representatives on the board and people who come to the meetings. So having a high school student and a college student, 2 large segments of our community that voices need to be heard from their perspective on things. So thank you again for serving. So Sanaya, this is for your outstanding service to the Police Advisory Board for this year, 24-25. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Stephen Plant, same thing for your outstanding service to the Police Advisory Board, the 2024 to 2025. Thank you very much.
Thank you both.
Also, just to note, the council may decide to do a formal recognition later, so just be on the lookout in case they do decide to.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So now we have time for citizens' comments, and I see we have a full gallery here, which is nice to see. I know we have some business law students, I believe. What faculty member, whose course is it?
Professor Workman.
What, I'm sorry?
Philip Workman.
Workman? Okay, all right. Do we have any citizens at this time who want to come forward to make any statements or address the board
Do you
Yeah,
want
what'd
to
she
make a
say?
statement?
for
Yeah.
citizen comments?
Is this where I get 3 minutes? just
Yes,
for safety
absolutely,
issues?
sir, yes.
I apologize up front, I'm really hard of hearing, so if it sounds like I'm screaming, I'm not. And I'm good, there's some people like me here with white hair, so I mean, I feel like a camaraderie.
Okay, if you could tell us your name and where you live?
James E. Yancey, right off Lawrence Road, okay? Safety issue, solve everybody's problem. If you want to save a life, get the neighborhood a speed bump on Lawrence Road between Old Central and Clemson Street, or as I like to refer to it, the Indy 500. Now at the Clemson one there. I've got a lot of this. It's this guy's job, it's utilities, it's the fire department, everybody I talk to, it's something different. There's not enough, I'm a resident of like 25 years, and I think there's 3 of us left. So, and actually, to be fair with it, I'm in Pickens County until I go to my driveway, can you dig it? I would put one out there, I'd get the 2 stakes and a log to put it out there. But what you have, and I'm trying to talk fast, is a lot of pedestrians, and they put the Clemson 1 in, so the density area. Anybody, are you familiar with Clemson 1?
Yes.
The 1 Clemson?
Yeah.
Yeah, so how many kids is that? 4,000, 3,000? And they all have a lot nicer cars than I ever did. When I went to school, I mean, if I was going 30 miles an hour, it felt like 100 miles an hour. So they're really flying down there, and the mode of pedestrian traffic, or the mode of the way people walk nowadays is like this, okay? And I see a lot of near misses, and it's not when one of these college kids or a funky old person like me is gonna get run over. It's not if, it's just when. And what would really solve it, I mean, I got the city to put up a blind curve. If you're familiar with that area, I talked to the mayor about it when we were giving blood. He used to jog there, not anymore. But between Clemson Street and Old Central, the police do a wonderful job, but they park on Old Central, okay? I'm losing him already. But they park on Old Central, and when they turn in, it is like drag city, drags like a drag strip. And I can just see a disaster happening, and I don't know who to talk to about it, but you remember Old Henderson, the dirt road there where they put Clemson 1?
Oh, yeah.
You know that curve there? If they just put one I'm tempted, one speed bump there, I mean, it wouldn't take long for everybody to drive the 25 miles posted that nobody does. And I didn't know who to turn to when I saw this on the web.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you coming and letting us know. So now, it's Clemson Street that they're speeding down? Is it Clemson Street
I
that
believe
they're
it's
speeding
Clemson Street, the
down?
one that goes up to that frat house, and on the other side, it's Old Central, correct?
Right.
So
Right.
Clemson Street doesn't seem to be a big problem, but I can't say that for sure, because I don't live there. I live before the curve, so when you're coming off Old Central, kind of like between 6 to 8 to 9 p.m., it's like you think Dale Earnhardt was out there, you know, going for another trophy, or Richard Petty.
Always in the PM?
Huh?
Always in the PM time frame?
Always at night?
No, it's in the daytime too, and you know, you can't hammer just the college students. I see people my age driving down the street like this, and it can support the volume of cars, it can't support the speed. There's 25-mile speed limit up there. The city put up, at my request, like a blind driveway curve, but
Okay.
it's just these new cars nowadays, I think, I don't want to go over my 3 minutes, but the cars out there are so powerful that when people come down, they don't even know they're going that fast. And I got pets, grandkids, and all these college kids that walk down from the Orchard. You know where the Orchard is? And I stand out there and I tell the girls, don't walk with your back to traffic, but I'm just a creepy neighbor they don't think I'm helping them out. And, you know, somebody's just going to get, I mean, if it's not this year with school going out, it's going to be next year, and we're going to be having like a funeral and people.
Thank you very much for your comments.
And all that for a speed bump.
Thank you. We appreciate that very much. And so, Chief, is that an area where we've had officers at least observing to see what's going on?
It's added to the list of all the other places as well. He's talking about Lawrence Road, and we're aware of the concerns and issues there. He's asking for a speed bump, but just to remind everybody that the city That's called a traffic calming measure or traffic calming device. And we have a policy in the city of how that is supposed to go forward to be recommended to council. Council has to make the final decision as to whether one goes in or not because of several things.
So is this a recommendation during
So
comment that he
I
can
will
make
have
to
to, I
council?
will have to ask, because he is not a city resident, and most of the people that live along that road that probably would want a speed hump are not city residents, because that road splits the city and the county. So everybody that does live in the city lives in the apartment complex where most of the cars are going and coming from. So I'll have to ask how we would navigate that. If it were inside the city and it were city residents, then there would have to be a petition that would go out, a speed study would be conducted, and then it would go through a procedure to determine whether one is warranted or not.
Okay. And being on the cusp of the city and the county, what's the procedure for that?
That's what I'll have to ask. I
Okay.
mean, if he's requesting it, but he's not a city resident, and
Yeah.
that's what I have to find out, because it would be city funding that would fund it. So that's
Okay.
where I would have to get guidance.
Okay, thank you. Well, sir, we'll look into that to see we'll look into it to see what the procedure is.
I appreciate that from
where it's
everybody,
located.
it's absolutely correct. The problem is there's not enough residents there, they're all transient students, but they're all gonna die the same way as a resident when they get hit.
There is a hearing device if he wants to use it over there, Carla, up there, if he wants one.
Thank you.
Oh, great. All right, thank you. Do we have any other citizen comments at this time?
Anybody in the audience live in the one that want to give their perspective? Nobody that wants to admit to it anyway, go.
Okay, if there are no further citizen comments, we will move on to the FOIA presentation by Sergeant Wilbur.
So I will introduce Sergeant Wilbur, because she probably won't tell you all the great things that she does. Sergeant Wilbur has been with us since 2018. She was a road officer, then was promoted to sergeant, was a road sergeant for quite a while, and then she was selected 3 years ago now?
I think so.
To be our supervisor over communications, detention, records, and evidence, the evidence room. And part of her duties are to fulfill FOIA requests when they come in, as well as what we call Rule 5 or discovery requests, which is whenever a case is scheduled to go to trial, any and all evidence and documents on that case has to be gathered and provided to the defense as well as the prosecution. And so Sergeant Wilbur does all of that, and she is extremely busy and has multiple hats in the air at any one time. And so I asked her to explain to you how we process FOIA requests, and I'll preface this with, we have exemptions that we use when we fulfill FOIA requests that the city and other parts of the government do not. Now, those exemptions would apply to them if they did the same kind of work that we do, but they don't, so those provisions don't provide. So she's gonna go through that. The floor is yours. If I miss something, please fill in.
So FOIA is the quick terminology for the Freedom of Information Act that was enacted several years ago. Essentially, for us in law enforcement, in any public body, any information that people can request to see. I have access to it, and I don't know how, there we go. Thank you. So the purpose is basically for the citizens of any particular government to request information to ensure that the government is not being misguided in how they're handling things. So the way our process is designed, the city of Clemson itself just got a new program called Next Request, and at the end I'll show you the website where you can, we can point out where to submit for that stuff. But you submit everything to that website, and it helps us just keep track of everything so we know what needs to be done, who's working on what, things like that. It's just an organization tool that we're using now. So what is a public record? Public record is anything pretty much that the government does. Any notes taken, maps, books, papers, photographs, videos, reports, anything like that. It could be the minutes from this meeting, it could be a city council meeting, it could be any speed measurement tests that we do to determine where we need to run traffic, anything like that could be considered a public record. So non-public records, this is going to be kind of where your exemptions come in. Certain areas of government have different restrictions that they're allowed to use. Income tax, medical records, hospital records for HIPAA, all that stuff. Some school records, you can get access to certain things from school, but not everything. Adoption records, autopsy reports. Body camera is a little tricky. If you are utilizing the body camera appropriately and you're wearing it, because that body camera has the potential to enter into a home or places that are typically subject to a higher threshold of privacy, it's typically not foiable. But the second you take that camera off and start utilizing it as a camera, like you're interviewing someone or something like that, then it could become foiable because of the way you're utilizing it. And then juvenile records throughout the whole process, they get redacted whenever they turn 18, so automatically just because of juvenile records as a whole, so that's why they're not public record. What is a public body? Any form of government, any boards that are commissioned. This board is technically a public body. So just pretty much anything that is supported by public funds is kind of how you're going to look at it. So, all right. Now we're going to get into some of the exemptions and like restrictions that we don't will redact for. So public identifying information. So this is going to be your birthdays, your social security numbers, addresses. If you have, like for a booking report, sometimes the debit card number will be put on the booking report. We're redacting that out. Anything that can be used to be tied to you or can be used, like if someone were to try and use your credit card number, things like that. Current, former addresses, all that stuff. If you have a juvenile, obviously the juvenile's name is going to be redacted because they have different levels of privacy per state law. However, if that juvenile lives with the parent, you would also be redacting the parent's information so that they're able to maintain that anonymity. Again, this is the body cameras. I kind of touched on this a little bit. So they're not typically subject to police record and disclosure. Again, and that's for the main reason that I provided for you of like that higher expectation of privacy when we're entering into places. Certain places can get copies of that body camera, and sometimes, depending on the situation, you might be able to obtain it through other means like a Brady motion or something like that. So, limitations. So, for FOIA, it is for things that already exist in our purview, so things we have access to. If it's something as simple as we just have to hit a button and it'll run a report, we'll create it that way. But if it's something that we're gonna have to go through and physically create ourselves, we do not have to do that. We can only, if somebody asks for all the reports from 2024, like that whole year, we could give them a list and say, these are all the reports. It's their job to go through it unless they give us more specific stuff. But they also have a requirement to kind of give us more information about what they are looking for. If they present something that is overly vague or broad, and it's hard to narrow down what it is they're looking for, and the burden to provide that information would be, I think it's the terminology is unduly burdensome, technically, then we can refuse to complete that request based off of that because of the manpower and the things we would have to do in order to create it. So if something does not exist, we do not have to create it. And if it is not in an electric format, we do not have to present it in an electric format. So if we have a copy of a police report from 1989, computers weren't really around back then. So we don't have to scan it in. We don't have to do anything. We can provide it to them in the format that it is already in. So go ahead. So the way fees work, the fees are actually how you can do it is mandated through South Carolina law. Each city kind of has its discretion in like how they apply it. But essentially the lowest paid person who can do the job is the hourly prorated rate that you can utilize. So whoever is the most capable or the least capable but can do it, that's the salary you're gonna use. And essentially, when this process begins, someone issues their request to us. We're gonna go and we're gonna see, okay, what are they asking for? How long is it gonna take? What are the things that we're gonna need in order to fulfill this? And then the fees are determined based off of that. This table here is how much the city charges for like the physical copies. If it can be mailed electronically, we don't charge anything for that purchase. But if they want like a hard copy, that's when we would start getting into that. So deadlines. So when someone submits their request, essentially, that we have, per our city policy, 10 days to respond to them with what is called a determination letter or addressing how it's going to be handled. So in that determination letter, it typically states, we're gonna give you what you need, and it'll tell you what the estimated cost is gonna be. So if there's gonna be a cost, it'll say, this is gonna be the estimated cost. There are reasons you can put in a deposit if it's gonna be like a large request. Then a deposit can be asked, and I don't think it's in the PowerPoint. I think it's no more than 15% of the full cost of the record invoice that will go out. So from that 10 days, once you send the determination letter, when you send that letter out, you then have 30 days to complete that request. And you're trying to get that to them. I try and get that to them as soon as possible just so I can stay on top of things, but that's just me. If records are more than 2 years old, you're given a little more time for both the determination letter and getting it out, just because sometimes it can be harder to find. So, and then this is our website. This is the new Clemson Police Department website. This is what it looks like. And you can see there's the FOIA request right there. And once you fill out everything in that, it sends us an email, lets us know who it's assigned to, and then we start working on it. So, are there any questions?
One thing about the cameras, when you mentioned, you said if it's taken off, set on a desk, and you're interviewing, then it's admissible then? What was your?
So a lot of our detectives will utilize their body cameras like that so that they can also be on the screen. Because sometimes they're in a place where they don't have a camera, and so they can't see them and the suspect. So they'll just take off the body camera and they'll set it on a desk so you can see kind of the whole room. And so then there's no question about like, what is your face making or things like that. So because they have transitioned that body camera from a body camera to a camera and functionality, so like just like a camera, like an interview camera or anything else, it wouldn't fall under the body cam purview because it's not being used in that way.
And they have to make a statement of this is recording, or do they not?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Did they have to make the statement this is recording, or do they
So
not?
per South Carolina law, you do not have to say that because it's a one-party consent. So if I'm recording, I'm consenting to the recording. So we don't have to do that.
So what she's referring to is the officers that wear the body cameras in their uniform. They can do interviews, they can do whatever, as long as it's continuously attached to them. It is considered a body camera video, and under the body camera video exception, it is not releasable under FOIA, except for very extreme circumstances, okay? If they use the body camera, like she said, as a camera, so they're gonna interview, say, a phone call or a one-on-one interview or whatever, and they take it off their uniform and they put it down on the table, it is no longer a body camera video footage, it's now video footage, which has less restrictions on releasing it. One thing I'd like to point out, though, is if it is still being used in an active criminal investigation, it is not releasable under FOIA until that criminal case is disposed of and is closed. So until it goes to court and a court rules on it, you still don't get it under FOIA until that's over with. She mentioned earlier there's other ways to get it, one being a Brady motion, that's a discovery motion. The defendant and the defendant's attorney can get that video through a Brady motion or discovery motion, but a regular member of the public or even the media cannot get a copy of that video while that case is active and open. So that's part of the exceptions I talked about earlier under FOIA. We don't release things in cases that are still active and open. So even if an arrest has been made, the case is not closed, it has not gone to court yet, it's not releasable, because if we did, and it goes out in the news media, and people view it, it taints juries, it taints opinions, people add their version of what they perceive in the video to it, and then it makes the case harder to prosecute in the court of law. So that's why those things are not released prior to the trial.
There are instances where, like for public safety reasons, the police department could choose to release something they typically wouldn't. But that, again, would go through him. He would be the deciding factor on that. So.
There'd have to be a greater public concern that needs to be addressed for us to do something like that. Another thing she mentioned, and I just wanted to point out as well, is she mentioned that if a record does not exist, if a document does not exist, if a report does not exist, or a report that is easily created does not exist, you can't ask under FOIA for that information and expect to get it. An example would be, we had a reporter ask us, how much overtime did we spend during the football game right after the hurricane?
Mm-hmm.
How much more money did we spend as a city because the game went on? We didn't have a record that said that, okay? And in order to find that out, we would have to go back into our data and figure out who worked that day, figure out who was on overtime, who was on straight time. So that would create a work product that was excessive to find out that information. So we wound up giving generalized information, say generally, this is how much it costs per hour, per officer. This is how many officers worked during that game. This is how many officers worked during a regular game. And it turned out the amount was lower during the hurricane game because we had to use, our resources were so thin, we had to use salaried employees to cover those positions, which they weren't making overtime because they're salary. So the cost was less to the city, but the staffing hours to cover it were still the same as it would a regular football game. But that's another example of, well, I want a FOIA request of this. Well, if there's no record that exists that has that information on it, it's not releasable, and we don't have to create it. Now, if they want to pay for the staffing time it takes to do all of that, that's a different story, but it's not something that they would readily get under FOIA.
So where do most of your FOIA requests come from? Are they evenly split between press and citizens, or mostly from attorneys?
Mostly attorneys, and then the Clemson Office of Ethics and Standards.
Mm-hmm.
Investigators.
Yeah.
Investigators.
They're private investigators now because of NIL.
Uh-huh.
Anybody that has anything to do with NIL or going into a professional organization, they email blast us with all the names.
Usually the list of like 10 to 15.
Okay.
But just looking for any histories that we have with them.
And can you tell us a little bit more about how you go about the process of releasing information if you get a Brady motion?
For Brady motion, well, I do a lot of digging. I watch a lot of body cam videos and in-car videos to see who was all on scene. I look to see, like, because anytime you're on scene, you're supposed to have your body camera on. So sometimes it doesn't make it into the report that they were on scene, but I see them on the camera on scene, so I have to go try to find that video. I always try and check their in-cars. Yes, like I read the reports to ensure if they took witness statements, I go and try and make sure I have the witness statements, all of those things, and anything else. If they said it had evidentiary value, I try and make sure we know where it's at. So most of the stuff that we deal with from the Brady motion perspective is like alcohol enforcement or public disorderly conduct, public drunk. So there's not really a lot of physical evidence. It's a lot of videos and stuff like that. So.
Okay, thank you. Do we have other questions for Sergeant Wilbur? It just so happens that you're presenting this today. Hopefully it's of interest to our business law students, some of them maybe pre-law students who are hearing this and familiar with some of these terms and how this process works, learning a little bit about this.
Do you have a question for her about it?
Do any of you have a question? Okay, well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. It's very helpful.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
I heard him, but I couldn't see what he was asking.
Oh, do we have I'm sorry.
Thank her for what she does.
Oh, gotcha.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to the department status and the staffing review. Chief?
Okay, so we have 3 dispatcher jailer vacancies that we're still trying to fill. We have had a few candidates come through. We got some going through background, but it's still a very slow process. We have 1 sergeant vacancy, and that is because Lieutenant Davis was promoted to lieutenant. She was a sergeant, she's now a lieutenant. She is our second female lieutenant in the department history. The first female lieutenant was back in the 80s. So she's the first one since that time. And the one back in the 80s, she was gone before I ever got here, so I never met her. So, so we're holding on that sergeant position, which means we have to promote a sergeant internally. That's a process we need to go through. We have 2 officer vacancies. We have 2 officers in the academy. We have 1 officer, because the other one just graduated, who we just hired, who is already a certified officer. He's going through his FTO right now, so he should be cut loose here in about 4 weeks. We have, for the 2 vacancies, I think we definitely have 2 in the pipeline going through their backgrounds. 1, I know for sure 1 is certified. I'm not sure about the second one. So that will be a short training period. Ben just got out of his FTO, yeah. Let's see. Regarding department status, our golf tournament is on Tuesday, next Tuesday, 9 o'clock at Boscobel. I think we have 23 teams.
Yeah, I think it went up.
It went up.
Excuse
It's
me.
more than 20, less than 30. So we have a decent showing. Fingers crossed, so far the forecast looks like great weather, so we're looking forward to that. 28 teams? Wow, almost 30. So we're looking to have a good time. If anybody wants to come out and hang out, feel free to come out. It'll be a great day. Have some food. I just got approval to purchase 13 more in-car cameras to replace the in-car cameras we were having issues with, which is great because it's on the same system that our body-worn cameras are on, and it helps Sergeant Wilbur out a lot. She's left because it has technology in it that links all the videos together, so she doesn't have to do as much searching like she mentioned. So we're hoping to get that all done before the end of this fiscal year. And this past week I've been pulling my imaginary hair out trying to get grant applications submitted on time and done properly, so hopefully those will go through. And that's it for the staffing review. If you're okay, I'll move right into crime review.
I have just a question.
Go ahead.
Just curious as to how many positions are there for a dispatcher?
9, and I think we're getting 1 more next fiscal year. So it was 8, which was 4 per rotation, 2 in the day, 2 in the evening. We got permission for 1 additional one this past fiscal year, and the next fiscal year they're going to give us 1 more to kind of even them out, so we can help with filling in for the gaps for vacation, training, those kind of things.
Okay, on to the crime review.
Yes, I would have the crime map up. Unfortunately, it's not working. I just found that out this afternoon, so I'll be making some emails and phone calls to get them working. However, during the month of March, we did 588 traffic stops. We issued 327 citations. We had a total of 40 incarcerations, 2 DUI arrests. We issued 7 noise violations, and we worked 68 traffic collisions, 4 of which had injuries. We took reports of 1 alleged rape, 4 breaking and enterings, 1 theft from a vehicle, 4 motor vehicle thefts, 7 narcotics arrests. I already mentioned the DUIs. A bunch of other reports for simple assault and fraud and those types. and that is the crime review.
Do you have any questions? How was coverage during the Music Fest?
It went off fairly well. I mean, any of the issues that were experienced were at the fest itself, which was on campus. We did have officers that worked that event, and we had additional officers in the downtown. But we didn't have very many issues to deal with. I was out and about.
Did we get a number on how many people there were at it?
If they got a number, I don't know what it is. I've heard like 6 different numbers get tossed around, so I don't know which ones to repeat.
Okay, any other questions on the crime review? All right, hearing none, we will go on to the overview of the new website. It's exciting.
Am I doing that? She made the agenda.
I can.
She didn't tell me. Well, that's if I can get the website up. So if you go to clemsonpd.org, you see there's a new look on our website. The City of Clemson's website has also been updated. They all look the same, but the buttons up at the top are a little different. They take you to different locations. You have the buttons down in the middle. The reports is our annual reports that we put up. Crime info is the crime map, which isn't working right now. If you want to submit a commendation or a complaint against an officer, you click on this one. If you want to submit a crime tip, you can do that as well. What is alerts?
The alerts are the news and posts.
The news.
Yeah, so if
Oh,
you post an
okay.
alert on the site, that's where it puts the full info.
Okay, as you can see, prescription drug take back is Saturday, April 26th from 10 to 2. We have the disposal bin in our lobby at the police department. That's where people can go if they want to do that. And then also the FOIA request button, as Ashley had pointed out earlier. So it just has a new look, pictures of the new car, the new patch, but all the information is still there, easy to navigate.
What, where does the crime map sit? on
We're
your-
at crime
or where
info.
will it
Click
sit?
on crime info, it'll bring you to the new site. And again,
It's not working right now.
it's not
but,
working
yeah.
right now. It stopped for some reason. January was the last time it uploaded anything. I don't know why. When I go back as far as January, then things start popping up, but it seems like something got broken after January, and I have to find out why.
Okay, yeah.
Is there still record of it? There's still record of it? It's just not popular?
Yeah, it's
just
pulling
not
out of
showing.
it's pulling out of our records management system, but sometimes the interface breaks.
Hmm.
And if it doesn't automatically pull it, I gotta call somebody because the firewall did this, that, or the other, so it's probably what happened.
Okay. Great. Are there any questions about the new website? It looks great.
Okay.
Okay, if there aren't any questions on the website, we'll move on to the golf cart ordinance update.
Okay, so we took the golf cart draft ordinance to council for discussion. During that discussion, Councilmember Fulmer asked for a public hearing. The following meeting, we had a public hearing. We had members of the public show up. Many of you showed up. I know before our meeting, we had many comments on some of the comments that were made during that meeting. Since then, I've talked with our city administrator, and he wants to wait until the state makes a decision on the night driving before moving forward, because he doesn't want to take the ordinance to council to vote in and then have to take it back up again to amend it for the night driving. So he's asked me to hold on to that until we know what the state is going to do. Last I heard, it was at a Senate subcommittee meeting for discussion. It was supposed to happen last week. I don't know if it did or didn't. I hadn't had a chance to take a look. The meeting before that it was scheduled, the utility vehicle discussion took up the whole meeting time, and they weren't able to get to the golf cart part. So that's why it was pushed to the next meeting. So again, I don't know the status of that. I'll have to take a look at that. So once we know what the state's gonna do, then we'll make a decision of going forward.
Are there any questions regarding that? Anyone? All right. So next on the agenda are requested presentation discussions. So similar to the presentation that we just had today, we like to bring in officials, departments, offices, programs, things that might be helpful to us as a board and just also for public information. So are there any others that we want to hear from or anyone else that we should maybe have Chief reach out to?
I'd like to propose we reach out to an active shooter response. So
Training?
If there's somebody that
Trainer?
can come in and talk to us about that. Is there somebody we
Is
can
there
reach
someone in
out to?
particular that you would recommend?
I have
for that?
staff that does active shooter training. I can ask them to come do a presentation.
Okay,
That could be interesting. Yeah.
yeah, after just hearing the late things go on, it might be beneficial to the community.
Okay. Any others? Okay, we will move on to open discussion. Any board members have anything any citizens have brought to you or anything that you'd like to bring?
Have
Elaine, you
something.
look like you have something.
I do. After that discussion about the golf carts and the stickers, I had a group of friends that came with me, so this is just not my opinion. And they thought that the presentation was very well done by the chief, but that the comments that were made from the community were unbelievable. I mean, I honestly. And that they thought that it was very disrespectful for our police department. And that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Anyone else?
I would just
Who is it?
add to that, there were several residents that came up and were trying to give empirical reasons why we shouldn't have an ordinance, saying that there wasn't data presented to warrant putting an ordinance in place. And I just would remind everybody to think about that for a minute. Think of all the things that we see on a day in and day out basis, that a record is not generated when you see it. It's just what you saw, and go from there, okay? I hate to use an analogy that has records that exist because then they're gonna default to that, okay? But we see things all the time. And we had a citizen tell us today of their observations and their experiences on a certain segment of a roadway. There's no record of those incidents anywhere other than that person's memory. That doesn't mean those things are not occurring. And so that's one thing that I think we need to take into consideration when we hear, well, there's no evidence of it. There's not any crashes, and there's not any citations written, and there's not any things being towed, and there's not anything. Well, you're right. It's also in the way and how it's approached and dealt with currently before it gets to a larger problem. So, right, wrong, or indifferent, everybody has their opinion one way or the other, but I just want to put that out for food for thought, because if all we're going to do is wait for something to happen and it get documented before we do something, and it's too late.
That's right.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. If there are no further comments, any other things to be brought forward before the board today?
Questions for the class out there, anything? Somebody's gotta have a question.
Yeah.
Can I ask we adjourn and then we'll go for questions?
Sure.
We can do that, definitely.
That way we can
Okay.
adjourn the meeting.
If there's nothing further, can we get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, show of hands.
Hands.